Welcome to the Manifestation Babe podcast. My name is Kathrin and I'm a manifestation expert, master mindset coach, and multiple seven-figure entrepreneur. I'm obsessed with helping you achieve everything that you once thought was impossible. If you're looking to massively up-level your life, your finances, your relationships, your productivity and success, then you have come to the right place. My goal in this podcast is to help you see the infinite potential within yourself to be, do, and have anything that your heart desires. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of mindset development to help you maximize who you are and where you're going. Leave it to me to provide you with the tools, the resources, the strategies, and teachings that you need to manifest a reality wilder than your wildest dreams. I know we're about to have so much fun together, so thank you so much for pushing play today. And now let's begin. All right, Landa, we are live. You are in the studio. I'm so happy to have you. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, I'm going to move the mic closer to you. Landa is obviously not, she's more BTS as a COO. She's not on the podcast very often, so I kind of will coach her every now and then to speak into her mic, but we're going to do this because we fucking got this. All right, you guys, this is the episode that I've been teasing for a while now. I've teased it in basically every episode that I've launched so far in the new year, which had a lot to do with business. It was never my intention to be so business heavy, but I feel like these questions always come in the Q&A boxes whenever I do them, if I'm traveling or through, my students, or if I'm doing it for the podcast. And these questions, they're just so like left field in comparison to like what I'm, the majority of the other questions are. So I figured that maybe I just create some content for you guys that just answer all of your business questions all in one episode that you can go back to over and over and over again. So Londa is the queen of running Manifestation Babe. She is the manager of our team. She's the hiring person. She is just literally everything. Like, it even doesn't make sense to just call you COO because you literally do everything. And you guys are always asking me like, Kathrin, how do you manage your team? And I always joke and I say, I don't, but Londa does. So Londa, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm pretty nervous, but I'm excited to be here too.
Okay, so the very first question, I did a Q&A box, of course, and everyone has been so excited to hear your answers. But before we get into the nitty gritties, can you just kind of share what your background is? Like, how the hell did you end up on this team in the first place?
Yeah, pretty randomly. So I did my undergrad degree in business and Arabic and Middle East studies at USC. And then I spent about 10 years working in international education. So everything from teaching kids English in other countries to taking US students abroad, just like a gamut of things in the international education space and intercultural relations space.
Did you say you lived in Egypt for 3 years? Because it's a big deal.
I lived in Egypt off and on for almost 10 years. I would go back and forth between them.
Okay.
And I lived in Iraq for a year and a half and taught English and math there.
Like it's nothing, like no big deal. Okay, go on.
And so I really love international education, and I love showing people like what's out there and like really having them check their beliefs and like why they believe the things that they do believe. And then, well, I was motivated by my student loan debt to leave higher education. And so I took a job in the cannabis space. Man, such a poor life choice. Well, but it got me here. So it wasn't the worst choice of my life, but it wasn't a positive one either. So I was managing like a bunch of cannabis operations, which I'm not even sure I should say that out loud, but that's fine. And anyway, so I was doing that. And then I got arrested and charged with 3 felonies. And well, I had a good lawyer, I guess. So I did not go to jail. Yay. But I was in a position where I was like, okay, I have to clearly leave this space. This is not for me. And I started like thinking about what I really wanted. And I knew it was definitely not that. And I think it gave that polarity of that job and just like how awful it was, gave me a lot of clarity around what I did want. And I had like no obvious like picture of Manifestation Babe, but I had like a clear picture of like, I want to feel valued and I want to feel appreciated. And I want to be able to work from home and travel and set my own schedule. And like, I just had this random list. I want to help people. I still want to make an impact in people's lives, which I definitely didn't feel like I was really doing in cannabis. I mean, I'm sure I was in some way, but it didn't feel that way.
It didn't have much to do with cannabis itself. It's more so about the people in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such an industry on the line in that gray zone, especially when I was in there. It was like, you know, like what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I tried to run it like a business. Like I tried to run it like Manifestation Babe. It just didn't really work that way. So, you know, it's come a long way since then, but I found myself in a position where I really had some clarity around what I did want to do. And so I was like applying for jobs. I found Manifestation Babe. I was like, I had just kind of gotten into that sort of personal development space, made my first vision board. I remember my first thing on my vision board was, I am not a criminal. So that was cool. Anyway, so I manifested that. And so, yeah, I just found the job. And then like when I read the description, I just like knew, and then everything kind of fell into place. And the thing that I love the most about being here is that every day is different. I have a lot of autonomy and freedom to like make choices and decisions. And I feel insanely supported and valued by Brennan and Kathrin. And that's exactly what I was looking for. So,
okay. I want to give some context from our side when we hired you. So, you guys have heard this story before in the podcast. And if you haven't, it's somewhere in there. I never remember the episodes and the titles and the numbers, but if you've been here for a while, you've heard this story where literally right before Brennan and I went on vacation to Australia, like everything fell apart and we started from zero. And I was free. I literally thought that was the end of the business. I was like, okay, that was a fluke. We did this for a year. And that's it. Business is done. Like, we're just going to do this one last hurrah in Australia, like try a launch. Like we literally had a launch while we were in Australia. And then what Brennan and I found out was that just the two of us together, we ended up doubling our revenue like January of 2018 from December of 2017. And I remember looking at Brennan and being like, this was the issue the whole time. We are the muscle and we had fat on our team. So we need to cut the fat and keep the muscle. So from this point forward, we're only hiring fuck yes people who are muscle, and we are never hiring fat again. And he's like, oh my God, that's the best analogy. You're so right, blah, 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 blah. And so because I ended up hiring all the people beforehand that ended up like falling apart, Brennan was like, you're not hiring anybody. And I'm like, okay. And so Brennan, I was actually in the mastermind at that time. And there's a couple people who had teams and stuff like that. So this one guy helped us create and craft like the perfect, what do you call it? Job description. Yeah. And did we put it on Indeed? Is that what we've been doing this whole time?
I think that's where I found it.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too, because we were just literally like, okay, we are starting from ground zero. Help us. And so this amazing guy in the mastermind, he gave us this description. We just like tailored it to Manifestation Babe. And then Brennan was the one to get on, you know, all the calls and the hiring and all the interviews and stuff like that. And I'll never forget. And what were we hiring for? It was just an executive assistant, right? Yeah. It was literally, we just needed somebody.
It was like a body to do all the things.
We needed somebody. And a lot of you are asking like, who should my first hire be? It needs to be just somebody to help you. Like somebody to take things off your plate, somebody to take off all those things that, like, for example, perhaps you are the creative of your business and all of the non-creative things are taking away from your creativity, and your creativity is the thing that's generating you revenue. So obviously the person you're hiring needs to take all those things off your plate. And you were just supposed to be our like person who can do everything, right? And so I'll never forget, we were in our studio at the time and Brennan was like, man, this Londa girl, I just love her so much. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but there's also this other girl that I love so much too. And so we ended up hiring both. And Landa actually was the one to come on our Bali retreat. Like literally, I think that was like your assignment. That was your assignment, was to craft the Bali retreat. because we always give like a test for people before we hire them. And your test was to craft the Bali retreat, like the schedule and stuff, which is a hilarious assignment now that I think about it, because it's literally like your expertise with your students. And so and the reason why that was our test is because Brennan and I literally had a Bali retreat coming up, like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, after you were hired. Like we had to fly to Bali and do another Bali retreat. We had nothing prepared. And so I literally met you like the day before we went on the Bali retreat. And then we were in the same room. So we were roomies for like 10 whole days. And then Brennan was roomies with Zach, who's now like one of our besties as our videographer for like 10 days. And that's kind of like the start of like the OG Manifestation Babe team, was like the 3 of us. That was like the exact, like, obviously it grew. And I want to ask you questions of like, how did you evolve to where you are today? But that was like the start of the exec team. And the exec team, just for context, you guys, it comes from, how we structured our team comes from the book Traction. And our exec team is me, Londa, and Brennan. So we meet now every single week for exec meetings, and for our annual and quarterly meetings. It's also, we always have an exec meeting first, and then we have a full team meeting. So that's kind of how we're structured. So how did you go from executive assistant to running the fucking company?
I think it's I don't say no to a lot of things. And I'm also pretty resourceful. So, I think my first week, Brennan was like at an event, and
it was a financial trip for Tony Robbins.
And he was like, there's this thing called Infusionsoft. Could you watch some videos about it? And I was like, yeah, sure.
We were so lost.
And so I just learned a lot. I was like very self-motivated. I was like, okay, clearly no one's going to like show me what I'm doing here. So I showed myself a lot of things. I asked a lot of questions. I had my own ideas. And obviously Brennan and Kathrin were like open to hearing them and letting me have autonomy to like come up with things. And that just kept building and building. And like over time, the trust is there, and obviously execution is there. It was clear
that Landa was a fucking rock star, and we struck gold with her. Like we got so lucky with Landa. It was so obvious to us.
I also think that, when you look at people in the online space, you have this, actually, I had the same feeling, actually. I'm going to tell you this story now. Okay. So, I think I saw something that was like, oh, and like my team, they just like left. And in my mind, I'm like, why did they just leave? Like, she's probably fucking crazy. And so I was like, well, I guess we'll see how this goes. And, so I definitely thought maybe like your previous person left because you were like really actually a psycho. But you weren't. In fact, I think that was the thing I love the most about you, is like the person that you are on social media is who you actually are in real life. And you're just easy to be around, and you're like not afraid to share anything. Like you're not afraid to share the spotlight. You're not afraid to share knowledge. You're not afraid to like bring people with you in building this empire. Like you are so sharing and open to that. Like you're not like, my idea is the only way for it to be done. And like, that's something that I respect deeply about you. And I think that's something that I try to take to the rest of the team, is like, no one here is like running the show per se. We all have our own ideas. We all have ownership over our parts, and we're all here just like contributing the best ideas. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the mission of what we do, which is like helping women or people to transform their lives. And I think everybody is so lit up by that drives everyone on this team.
It's so much bigger than the individual. And like anytime anyone ever calls me or Brennan like boss, we start laughing, because I'm like, I'm not nobody's boss. Like that just sounds so weird to me. It's like, yeah, I'm the face, I'm the owner, whatever. But like, I really do know, and I'm humble enough to admit that like I wouldn't be here without the team. So going from that, someone asked, how do you handle the stress/fear that your team knows more than you? Londa, how would you answer that question? So these are literally your guys' questions that you submitted. So I'm just going to do some like rapid fires.
The truth is that, I mean, I presume that you started a business at some point so that you could have some type of freedom. And part of freedom is not fucking knowing everything. Like there's no reason for you as the owner of a business to know every single detail. Like if that were the case, then I mean, why don't you just do it all yourself? Like that's not really helping you. I think it has to do with trust. You have to be able to trust your team, trust that they're going to ask questions or follow up. Like if, like they have some issues or questions that they can't actually address. Like it's not like you just send them off and are like, hope that all works out. I mean, like that's why we have, team meetings and we have quarterly meetings so we can all make sure we have the same vision. But at the end of the day, it's really just like, you don't want to fucking know every single detail. That would just consume your brain. Like Kathrin is here to like create big picture ideas, like convey a message, teach about manifestation. Kathrin doesn't need to know how we have set up the details of our email campaign funnel. Like,
or the 2-factor authentication on Facebook.
Yes, exactly. I'm just like, no, because her mind should be cleared to like download information that's relevant to teaching, not all of those details. So I think you should be able to let that go so that you can free up your mental space to be in your zone of genius.
Mm-hmm. Londa's truly a magical person. Might I add that she also planned our wedding? Like Londa's like, oh my God, we got so insanely lucky with you. And a lot of people, the number one question that I get, especially from our entrepreneur friends, is like, how do I hire a Londa? Where do I find a Londa? And I think that a lot of people are under the impression that their first hire needs to be someone as high level as who you are today. And I'm just curious, like someone asked, someone's a coach, they are just them and their PA, which we're assuming is personal assistant at the moment. When is the right time to hire a Londa? And I love that we coined it a Londa because literally all of our entrepreneur friends, me and Brennan, they're like, how do I find a Londa? Londa, help me find a Londa.
So shout out to whoever's PA that is. That should be you. I think really like if you have a PA who's there, who's with you from the beginning, if you are valuing that person and you are giving them the autonomy to like take action, take things off your plate and you trust them, like why wouldn't they be your Londa is really a better question. I think like truth is when I started, I had absolutely zero knowledge about online digital marketing at all. Like I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about it. So I think it had nothing to do with whether or not I had like a specific skill set. Like, do you know how to use Infusionsoft and build an email funnel? And like, no, but I know how to Google shit and I am very resourceful and I can ask people and I can get the information that I need to figure it out. I can hire other people down the line who can really own in on that expertise. But like in the beginning, you don't need a bunch of experts. You need a bunch of generalists to like really help you get shit done.
Mm-hmm. And it really evolves from there. What do you look for when hiring someone to be on the team?
Do I like this person?
Like MB specific.
Yeah. Do I like this person? I don't mean that in like if I didn't hire you, I don't like you. I mean that in like, my first glance is like, I'm going to read these application questions, which are things I actually care to read. Like, I don't care what your strengths and weaknesses are. I don't care, I don't care about these general traditional interview questions, really. I want to know, like, if I'm reading, questions about you, like, what would your superpower be? Or like, if you wrote a book about yourself, what would you call it? Or tell me a story about your favorite pet story. Like, I just want to know what kind of person you are. Like, could I imagine having a conversation with you? Like, would I feel engaged in that conversation? Could I see you having conversations with other people on this team? Like, can I find a point of connection with you? Because if I can't find that, you're not going to be a good fit. You're probably a good person. You're probably a hard worker. You're probably very qualified, but you're not the right fit for this space. And so for me, it's like definitely an intuitive knowing. Like I can read that and be like, oh yeah, I could totally see how they get along with this person, or, oh, they totally hit it off with them about that. Or, oh, I loved this answer. This really relates to this other thing. But if I don't catch that, it's just a no. There's too many applications for me to go any other way. Obviously, once I've been like, okay, this is a person I could like get down with, we could have a conversation because obviously they're on your team. You are going to have many conversations with them about many things that are not just your work. Once you know if they're like, oh yeah, I could get down with this person, then you can look to see like, oh, okay, well, what kind of skills do they have? And like, what's their work history like? And all of those other pieces. But like, none of that really matters if it's not a person you could see yourself spending 40 plus hours of your work week with.
Yeah. I love that you break it down in that hierarchy. Can you share a little bit about like core values and how we hire with our core values?
Yes. So our core values are ownership. And that's really like, are you resourceful? Do you take risks? Are you a blamer, or do you take ownership over your part? Are you looking at solutions? Are you accountable? Like, that's what ownership means to me. Are you thinking about new ideas and like running them forward? Are you, holding back? Are you waiting? So that's ownership for me. Be a manifestation, babes, our second value. That to me really means like, I am really here showing up as the best version of myself and putting effort into that, whether that's personally or professionally, hopefully both. Are you teaching people on your team? Are you teaching each other? Are you learning from other people? Like, can you be taught and can you learn? I mean, those things are important. Can you teach other people and can you learn? Sorry. Because this is obviously a space of growth, and we used to have it say grow or goodbye, actually, and it morphed into be a manifestation babe, but it's really true, because it's like, if you're a person who's just kind of like, this is fine. Like, dude, you're in the wrong space. Like, this is not going to be a good fit. You're going to feel weird as hell being with these other people. This is not going to be like a comfortable spot for you. So I think growth is really important to us. And then being in integrity with self and others is our last core value. And I think that really speaks to like, do you do what you say you're going to do? And if you can't do it, do you communicate to people why? And that's like a really big thing, because when we have a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts, and there isn't a traditional hierarchy where you have your boss like breathing down your neck and like micromanaging the shit out of you, you got to be able to like, hold yourself accountable and be accountable to your teammates.
What does your daily life look like as COO?
Well, it changes all the time. Actually, I want to just speak on this point of work-life balance. I was just talking to somebody else about this. Work-life balance is like such a shitty notion to me, because it's like, my job sucks so fucking hard, and so I have to balance it with my life. And I really hate that. It's like so depressing to me. I wish for everyone to have a job that they like love and is like a part of their life and their identity, in addition to all of the other pieces and parts of their identity. And so we have this like work-life integration vibe is what I call it, which is like, I'm a person. I have like multifaceted things going. So like, let's say today I woke up, I did some coffee drinking, checked the emails, practiced some language stuff. And then
I get those notifications every day from Duolingo. It's like, I don't know if it tells me what language you're on, but it's like, Landa just completed her 8,744th day in a row. And I'm like, damn, Landa, and I give you a little like.
Nice. So I do that in the morning, every morning. That's part of my morning routine. And then today I lifted weights, and then I had a call with one of the team members, and then I had another call with the team member, and then I had like a friend call me in between those, and then I went for a run really quick, and then I had a phone interview, and then I took a shower, I hung out with my dogs, and then I came here to do this. So every single day is different. Like, it's always changing, and I love that. And also it accommodates my life inside of it. So it's like, it's not like I go to work from 9 to 5 and then I close my computer and now I have the rest of my life. It's like, they're all so integrated. So every day I always make time to exercise. I always make time for people on the team. I'm always available. Not 9 to 5, always. I am always available to people on the team if they need something. And I'm always available to Brent and Kathrin if they need something. But it's also not like exploitation or something where I feel like I never have any time to myself. I have plenty of time. It's just spread out differently. So it might be like I have lunch with a friend in the middle of the day, or I take a Friday off, or there's just so much more flexibility in having something called work-life integration than work-life balance.
So this is kind of like a double-edged sword that we experience with like traditional corporate 9-to-5ers who have like work trauma. Is it's so much fun to hire those people because we know that we're going to blow their minds. But at the same time, they have a hard time like trusting us, or like trusting that we actually care. Can you just kind of like talk about like what that transition looks like for people who came from like a 9-to-5, and like what we do differently in our team culture that makes this place such a great experience that other entrepreneurs can also implement?
Yeah. I mean, I think number one, first and foremost, is that like everybody actually likes each other. which I think is rare for like an office environment, for you to like actually, I mean, you know, maybe you like mostly like people, but you got like that one person that you're just like, ugh. But we don't have that here. We just all really like each other, which makes, you know, working a pleasure because you like the people that you're with. And I already forgot your question. So
I was going to say, talk about like some of that transition that people experience, like when they're coming from a 9 to 5 and like what we do differently in terms of team culture.
Yes. So 1, we like each other. 2, there is no like micromanaging monitoring system. So I'm not like checking on everyone to see like, did you do the 5 things you said you were going to do today? I don't even know what their 5 things are. I mean, the only time I know is when we set our goals in the quarterly, and then we have calls where, you know, they might be like, oh, hey, I had this issue and I want to talk it through, or what do you think about this? You think this is a good idea? So really, I'm more just like a sounding board, and that's how I get information. I'm not like asking someone to send me a detailed report of what they did each day. So that's different. And I think there's also just like, you know, people will be like, could I make a doctor's appointment? And I'll be like, please don't ever ask me that again. Or like, what time should I come in? I'm like, I don't know. Whatever time you come in, you know, like, can I take my kid to school? Obviously, like, I feel like there's just like, that is such a different mentality from most jobs, that for people who come from that more traditional work environment are really like, what the hell is going on? But I think once they're in here, they feel pretty good.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are under the impression that if they don't micromanage, nothing gets done. And we give a lot of autonomy and freedom. What is your like theory on like why that works so well?
Because when people feel trusted and supported and believed in, they will knock it out of the fucking park for you every fucking time.
Damn, mic drop. Okay, what is it like a no-go in a team? Like, what are some red flags? Maybe let's break it up in like the hiring process. And then perhaps, and like we're lucky to have very, very few of this, if any at all, but like some potential red flags that like someone might notice, you know, after a person is already on the team for like a little while, that would be like a total no-go.
I don't even know that anybody would make it through that because like our hiring process is so long.
Okay, so in the hiring process then.
Yeah, because our hiring process is like,
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that next.
First you fill out the application, and then you have a phone interview, and then we have a Zoom interview, and then we have an in-person interview at times.
So let's talk about that first. So first there's an application. Literally, like what was the most amount of people that have ever applied for a job? Just estimate.
I would say like 300 to 400.
300 to 400. Okay. Do you read every single application?
Yes.
And that's just you?
Yes.
Okay. Who's doing the phone interviews? Like how do you go from application to phone interview?
So after I read all the applications, I sort them into folders. Like I do like yes, no, maybe. Although honestly, if you're a maybe, you're a no.
Probably a no. Yeah.
But you know, in the first glance, I do yes, no, maybe, and then like incomplete. Like perhaps you didn't send in all the things I need. And then after I have all the yeses, I go through them and read them in context now, because now I'm just looking at yeses with yeses as opposed to like a definite no and a yes. So I look at all the yeses and then I narrow that down, usually to 20, because I can't do more than 20 phone interviews. I mean, I have, but that's kind of where I try to cap it. So I make a list of 20 phone interviews. I make a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet usually has like, you know, where are they located? What was my general vibe? Little notes that I want to ask them about or remember about them. We do
like a 1 to 10 scale, right? Because like you always ask us for that number. Do you do that yourself?
No, I don't do that in the application part.
Okay.
I do it in the phone interviews. But in the application, it's really just like I read their application. I'm like, is this a person I could see on the team? Yes or no? And then I will put them. And again, like if I ever rejected you, I apologize publicly. But like I said, there's a lot of them. And so it's never a personal thing. It's more like, is this person going to fit with the people that are already here? So that is what I look for. And then I pick the top 20. I put notes on them, each of them. And then I set up phone interviews. The phone interviews, I have people from the team join on the phone interviews. So whoever is available. Literally doesn't matter. Anybody's open to do it. We do the phone interviews.
You always have one other person, right? So it's like teams of two. You and one other person.
Yeah, unless there's like a fluke or whatever. I can't get anybody on that one. But yeah, usually there's two of us. And we go through just some basic interview questions. We introduce ourselves. We talk a little bit more about the position. And then we have just like a few conversation starters. Like, what are you really like in, like person? Because obviously writing and speaking are different. And that gives me two different perspectives because, I'm maybe more of a speaking person than a writing person or vice versa. So I get a vibe from the call. We connect after the call. We rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on whether or not we think they'd be a good fit for the team. At this point, we're still not even looking that hard to know if you have the skills. Right now, we're still measuring fit.
Yeah.
And then once we know that you're a fit, then we do a Zoom interview with me, you, and Brennan. And the Zoom interview is really the opportunity for us to ask more technical questions. Like, okay, like you're a good fit, but like, do you also know how to do this job?
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's usually like 5 people.
Yeah, usually 5.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we typically do some type of assessment. Like, okay, cool. So you said you can do the thing, but can you actually do the thing? And then once we have that, maybe we have an in-person interview or we just choose it based off of the assessment. But that system has worked very, very well up to this point. Now, there are certain times where we get to the very end of that whole process.
Just going to bring that up. Mm-hmm.
And it's still a no.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I think, oh man, I went through all that. But I would rather have it be a no and start over. And I have done this a number of times. I will start over because I would rather have it be a no than a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's not a fuck yes, we have to start over.
Mm-hmm. And we have one position took us 3 rounds in a row. I'll never forget. It was the most frustrating process, but they say hire slow, fire fast. You want to make sure it is the right person. It's the right butt in the right seat, as we say in traction. And once it is, you can fully, once that person's trained, of course, you can fully let go, knowing it's the right person. You trust them, they trust you, things are good, rather than always having that voice in the back of your head being was it the right decision? And then you make it an awkward situation. Let's say it's not, and you have to let that person go. You can just avoid that by hiring super slow. Okay. I've a million questions, a million directions as you were talking, but let's go back to the red flag. What's a red flag that you see in any of those stages, whether it's application or interview or, obviously I can talk about the Zoom part because I'm there, or the assessment part, but I'm just curious, what you consider to be a red flag.
Yeah. If you write really, 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 really short answers, I'm just cool. If I'm going to take the time to read your answers, maybe put some time and effort into writing answers. And I get it. When you're applying for jobs, you're applying to so many things and it's shitty, but I don't know who's reading those applications, probably no one, but I am in fact reading these applications. And so I would like to actually hear your answers. And also I can't tell much about you. I could read your job experience and I could read your 1 sentence example, but that's, if you really let yourself show through, because I'm looking for authenticity, right? I'm looking for someone who's really willing to show who they actually are. And I can see it you'll see people who are clearly this is a job application and I'm just writing my job application questions or answers. And then you have someone who's oh my gosh, and blah, 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 wants to tell you everything. And I love those kinds of people because those kinds of people fit well here, you know?
Yeah.
We all like each other and know about each other's lives and are involved in each other's lives. And so, someone who has nothing to say is going to be kind of a weird dynamic. So I'm looking for someone who's got stuff to say and is authentic and true to who they are.
I would say from my perspective, I'm always filtering people through our core values. And I know we've had situations where we've gotten really close. Like I said, the final person ended up being a no in many instances. And we just we don't give up. We don't say, fuck it, let's just hire them anyway. We just start over. And most of the time it's because they did something that broke one of our core values. And obviously they don't really know what those are, but we have to hire according to those. And whether or not we're vocal about our core values, the right person is going to fit into all of them anyway, automatically. Okay. So let's say someone's ready to hire someone. Where do they post an application? Where are some good places that we found good people?
I mean, I think most everybody we found on Indeed. Indeed is easy to set up. I totally manipulate and go around their system. Sorry, Indeed, but I actually hate the way Indeed works. So I've set it up so that basically they submit their stuff and then I just select them all and send them a letter that is our actual instructions for applying.
Okay.
So I kind of work the Indeed system because I don't really like their system. But there's a lot of people there. That's like, we always have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants on every position.
Yeah, I agree. What would be considered like a good, like, let's say an entrepreneur is ready to hire, like what would be your advice for creating like a good job description?
Well, it should speak to who you actually are. I think that's why I liked the job description that you guys wrote, because it gave me a clear picture of what kind of people you were and the type of person you were looking for the role. And it wasn't like you should be able to use the internet and, I don't know. It didn't have like all these like technical specifications. It was like more general. Like, are you this kind of person?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm that person. And I see that because I recycle that kind of language a lot because it's really attractive. Like it really pulls people in. I see people writing the thing all the time. Oh my God, I felt like you wrote this about me. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're trying to draw out. Like, who are you looking for? What kind of person do you want around? What kind of person do you want to support you? Because like, the truth is like, you are a visionary. I am not a visionary. I'm an executor. And so, I mean, if you had gone out to look for, a visionary, we probably would be in a different situation. But I am not like the person who wants to start my own business. I'm a person that's like, okay, I don't have the idea, but I know exactly how to execute your idea and I'm going to do everything I can to get there. So who are you looking for? What kind of person do you want to spend your time working, building this thing with?
This is like an ideal client exercise.
It's
literally.
Also like
this is
your
like manifestation.
It's like your partner, your
soulmate.
Yes, your person.
Ideal client. Like it's the same shit. I think that creative entrepreneurs, they get so boxed into like the very traditional corporate like format. They don't realize that they can apply their creativity to like hiring because they get to create the dream team of their dreams, not just like what so-and-so from like fucking Apple says or Google says, you know what I mean? So this is a funny question. And I love when Londa talks about this. What do you do when someone doesn't want to listen to their superior, Londa?
That's hilarious. Superior. That's an interesting choice of words. I wouldn't use those words. I don't like, we try to keep this as flat as possible. Yes, there's an exec team that's so that we can like guide a general big picture vision. But like at the end of the day, how that big picture vision gets executed is not coming from Kathrin's mouth or my mouth. It is coming from every single person on this team.
Yeah.
We'll be like, okay, exec team will be like, we want to have a customer journey. That's it. That's like the direction. And then the team will be like, oh, yes, we could do this. 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 Like all of this shit, these so many fucking great ideas. Why? Because Kathrin didn't say, I want to do the customer journey and I want it to look exactly like this. And you need to do it this way. And you're going to do this part and you're going to do this part. And this is going to be your part. She's just like, this is an idea. And then everyone's like, oh, nice. And they all bring their own flavor to that. And then we get to just create something that's so incredible because we've used all of the ideas and like the excitement of every single person because everybody has voice. There's no superior here to be like, no, that's a bad idea. I'm sorry, you're stepping out of line here with your ideas.
That's a big no-no. My favorite example is like our photo shoots because when Rachel came on board, she's a creative director. We're just like, yeah, we need photo shoots on a regular basis. And she literally just like, ever since then, I've never been like, I want it to be in this house, in this outfit. Like, I'm literally like, okay, Rachel, where do you think the location should be? And then, she collaborates with her stylist, Kate, who then they decide which outfits go with which vibe or whatever. And then Rachel literally creates like the whole vision. And then I show up literally, like we're doing a photo shoot tomorrow in Joshua Tree. Or actually this weekend, we're driving there tomorrow. But I literally just show up on set and I'm like, all right, Rachel, you're the boss. And she literally like directs me and tells me what to do because I am entrusting her. I hired her to be the creative director. I didn't hire her to follow my creative directoring. that I don't have. You know what I mean? So this really goes hand in hand with like, what was the other question? What was the other question, Londa? You're supposed to know everything in my mind. Okay.
I don't know.
You're slacking right now.
I'm sorry. I got distracted. I was thinking about Rachel's photo shoot. I was so good at it.
Okay. If that thought comes back to me, it'll come back to me. Just super quick. You can be general. What does everyone on Team MB do? All the different roles. And I shared this with Brennan on our podcast episode that like, we didn't think of the roles and then hire those people. Like we literally started with you, executive assistant. And then from then on, it was like, okay, what's Londa's zone of genius? Okay, Londa fucking hates doing this part. Okay, well, let's hire someone for that part. Okay, this person stepped into their zone of genius. All right, they fucking hate doing this part. We got to hire this part. Now we're missing this part. Now we're growing. So it literally needs to start with just one person, and then you can plan from there. A lot of people, it's like that whole mistake that people make where they try to line up like the legal and the taxes and the corporation and everything before they even start the business. It's like, it'll never work that way. So, so I kind of shared like how we started and like how that led us to where we are today. So like, can you kind of like share the big picture of where we are today? Like who we got?
Yeah, sure. I was like, oh, can I map out their roles? And I was like, well, sort of, because of how we do things, there's some nuance to that, but I'll do my best. So, we have, I don't know. Should I call them by their names? Like this is
sure.
Weird. Okay. All right. Team MB is a shout out time. Okay. So we have Vicky on the customer journey. So Vicky's role is really like, are these people getting the transformation that they came for? And like everything about that. Like that is Vicky's entire purpose and role here is to figure out how to make sure that the people who come here get the transformation that they came for. It's an entire job here. Did we know that was a job?
No,
not
until literally last year.
Yeah. So that's just a thing that we came up with that we were like, clearly we wanted to have. And Vicky was actually a copywriter and she moved into this role. So there's a lot of flexibility just kind of depending on what you like and what lights you up. Then we got Alex. She's our new copywriter. She's amazing. We have Rachel who does like a creative. I'm just sorry guys if I, hacked any of your titles, but I was just trying to keep them general.
It's okay. Sometimes I call you the hiring lady. So like,
that's fine. Okay. Cool. So Rachel's like creative director and like brand vibe queen. She's like the queen of everything beautiful and like amazing. So Rachel's just got an eye for all things pretty. Sean is customer success. Sean and Jen do customer success. They work in our payments department, but they also work with every client issue that exists out there. Not just client issues, but community issues as well. But they have kind of their own areas of focus. Chelsea works in social media. She's, always in there with those DMs, trying to help answer all of your very, very specific questions. Eric is new and he's our tech wizard. Hannah is our video editor and videographer too. So coming in hot with the vlogs. Dahlia is also in customer success. I'm sure y'all know Dahlia. Dahlia is the one who is answering all of your questions in Hello At and is super, super kind and nice to everyone. You should be super kind and nice back to them.
Yes. And I will come after you if you're not, I promise. She's everything. She does so many great things. So
Rana
is like Landa, but in Egypt.
Yes. And
actually, which is funny because it's Egypt. And also, fun fact, Landa is taking me and Brennan to Egypt in April and giving us the fucking tour of the country. Yes. And I'm so excited. And she speaks Arabic. Please say something right now. Please.
أنا بتكلم عربي بس you're not going to understand anything, so it's okay. Shout out Team Egypt. That was just for you. So we have Rana. Rana, actually, I saw this question come in. It was about
Rana does the show notes, so she's going to be listening to this right now.
Yeah. She also does like a million other things.
Rana.
Hi, Rana. Also, I do want to say, here's a thing about, I noticed one of the questions was like, when do you decide to hire international versus local? That's a great question. I don't actually have an answer for it. It's because, you can find magic anywhere. Like, when we hired Rana, we were like, it was like a time where there was just like so much stuff. And it was like, oh my God, we just need someone to help. And this guy had messaged Kathrin in the DMs and was like, oh, like I have these VAs in Egypt. And I was like, I love Egypt. And so I was like, okay. So I got on a call with him and he gave me Rana, and Rana is incredible. Rana's like our launch manager. She like oversees the podcast.
And
like,
this woman started as a pharmacist in Canada, and like just her whole journey of like where she is today, and like what a freaking rock star she is on the team. And like, it's just she is the Londa of Egypt.
So that's Rana. We love her. And Zainab is also on Team Egypt, and she kind of oversees like the transformations and the collection of social proof and Facebook management. Zainab's like so eager and hungry to learn. And so right now, Zainab's really kind of like moving in between people as they need things. And she just like crushes everything. And
Team Egypt are full-time team members.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout out to Zainab. Also, Myrna, she's our newest Team Egypt member, and
her energy is so cute. Every time she shares her gratitude, she's so excited.
Yeah.
She's always excited.
Myrna is always excited, and we love her enthusiasm, and she is in the Facebook management and customer success side of things. So if you get an email or you're upset that your Facebook post maybe didn't get approved, don't be a hater, because Myrna is like lovely and wonderful and doesn't deserve that.
Okay, this is an interesting question because obviously I know my answer, but do you, Londa, use your intuition / reading the vibe and energy of someone as part of the hiring process?
I never thought in my life I would say this, but yes, 100,000%. It's like definitely a vibe. And I can also tell like, oh, I like this person, but I don't think that they're a good fit. Like I like this person, but I don't think they're a good fit for Kathrin's energy, or I don't think they're a good fit for Brennan's energy, or whoever else. So yeah, I'm checking a pulse on my own intuition, but I can also catch a vibe. Like, is their energy going to mesh with other people's energy on the team?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And last question is a selfish question. What is your favorite thing about working with Kathrin, Brennan, and the MB team?
I love them all so much. They're like legit my family. I mean, like straight up orphan here. I mean, they are my family, and I have never felt so appreciated and so valued and so supported by Brennan and Kathrin and this whole team. Like, it's so exciting to work in a place where like everybody is just as like lit up and excited about what we're doing. And, we all care about the people who come here for the transformation. We are all seeking transformation ourselves, and
everyone does MBA, every single person on the team.
Yes. And there's just like a commitment to helping us all show up as the best version of ourselves. Like I decided to run the Tough Mudder, and I got, 2 of our team members, Jen and Rachel, are running the Tough Mudder with me. And I'm so grateful to them. Like, this is my family. And so I've heard in other spaces, like don't hire people and treat them like your family.
I was going to ask you
what if you have to fire them? And I'm just like, you know what? If you have people who work for you and you treat them like your family, and you're picking the right people, right? Like, you're not just like picking people who are here like to exploit you. Like, obviously that's why you hire slow, is to kind of catch a vibe on that. Also, those people who are here to exploit you are not going to fucking last in an environment of other people who are like your number one fucking fan, So it's like, if you don't hire those kinds of people and you hire players and you treat them as though they are part of your family, and you treat them the way that they deserve to be treated, and you give them your trust and autonomy and encouragement and value, dude, they're going to show up for you every fucking time. I probably already said that, but that's like the truth. That is really, really the truth. Like, if you are valued and appreciated, you will show up and do your best fucking work.
Ooh, last question, actually. Can you just quickly talk about psychological safety?
Yes.
And why that's a huge piece of why our team works.
Yes. Psychological safety is like being able to say, hey, I didn't like the way this happened, or what you said hurt my feelings, or, when you did that, it really pissed me off, whatever it is. And knowing that you have the safe space to have a conversation about that. And that is something that Brennan and Kathrin do like nobody I've ever met, especially Brennan. Brennan is very, very good at that. I'll be like, hey, B, you did this thing and it like really upset me. And he'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'm like, I didn't even know. I'm so sorry.
Like, it's just like having that space to speak and to be heard is huge. And the same thing with the team. If the team is like, hey, Londa, we actually think we want to have the meetings differently. Instead of doing them this way, let's do them this way. I'm like, cool, let's do them that way. Like, no one's like so invested in their ideas that they're the only way to do things.
Yeah, I can speak from experience, like what Londa just said, like, hey, this isn't working out. Like I called Londa like stressed out. Well, me and Brendan called Londa stressed out and freaking out about like our launches being so close back to back. And then literally I was like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable for me because I know like the whole team is involved with this decision and we have to switch everything around. And Londa just goes, hold on a second. And I know you opened up your planner because Londa doesn't use digital planners. She literally writes the shit down in her fucking textbook that she brings every day. And she's like, all right, just like ask like questions and then just rearranged a whole launch in 15 minutes and just like literally saved my life. So Londa, I love you so much. I'm so lucky to have you. You are so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know it's not always the most comfortable thing in the world for you. You're very, behind the scenes, but I do love having you up here as well because you are a huge reason of why this company works, like a massive, massive reason. We love you so dearly. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your energy, and all of that good stuff.
Well, thank you for having me. People of the internet, please be kind.
All right. To the rest of you guys, I will catch you in the next episode. Mwah. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you absolutely loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on iTunes so that I can keep the good stuff coming your way. If you aren't already following me on social media, come soak up the extra inspiration on Instagram by following @ManifestationBabe or visiting my website at manifestationbabe.com. I love and adore you so much and can't wait to connect with you in the next episode. In the meantime, go out there and manifest some magic.